one. And here we are with Dr. Ben, our resident nutrition expert. Um,
I don't know about
well, how
that.
do well, no, you are. Your expertise is your self-learned expertise in nutrition, right? And not all self, because you brought in experts, you've learned from experts as well. So
Sure.
it's a combination of self-taught and learning. And there was a president who was pretty good, even though he taught himself everything. His name is, I mean, you may not have heard of him, Abraham Lincoln. He did all right, and he did believed in lifelong learning. So I think you're on the right track, Ben.
That is one of my biggest beliefs, is that we should continue to learn our entire life. I try to instill that in my children. I try to instill that in my employees. Yeah, that it keeps it exciting. There's always
It
something
does.
new to learn.
There is. And I have to say, it's changed one of my philosophies. I used to be a pretty harsh critic of whether it was a politician or some known figure, and they would come out in favor of something, and then years later, they change their opinion on something. I'd be like, they're wishy-washy, they're flip-flop. No, not necessarily. They just learned maybe they weren't correct before. So that's been a big aha for me in my life.
Sure. Yeah. No. I mean, yeah, and certainly in the nutritional topic matters, and even in you're old enough to remember the days when they told individuals that they shouldn't be strength training, right? I mean, that strength training was bad. I certainly don't strength train for children, right? You're going to stunt their growth, and all those concepts have been kind of changed now.
Yes.
Or really, pretty much everybody should do some form of resistance training, barring some type of orthopedic issue where they can't,
Right.
so it's fascinating to look at that, how much things change. And then probably nutrition and supplements are where that information, no one has come to consensus on it, and then that changes like every single week. Like a different study comes out, and then it's like, oh well, we're not supposed to do that anymore. Oh, now we're supposed to do it again. Now we're not supposed to do it. So yeah.
How much does it take for you typically, Ben, to change your view on something? Just like what if we're going along that line, like if you thought X and then you saw an article, then what do you do from there?
So the way I handle that, because that's a really good question, I typically, if I have a topic that I'm interested in, like for instance, I was extremely interested in whether a ketogenic, higher meat, higher protein was better diet for myself and my customers, or was a more plant-based diet better, where it was typically a little bit higher in carbohydrate. So I will read all the available information on both sides of the debate. So I'll read all the stuff supporting one side, all the stuff supporting the other side. Then I will typically devise some type of research study on myself. So
Mhm.
eating those different methods, and then measuring things like C-reactive protein, which is a measurement of inflammation in the body, or blood pressure, or seeing what happens to my weight. So what does it do to me, individually,
Mhm.
and then also trying to look at the available research. Are there any good studies that support one side or the other? And so that's been really fascinating. And sometimes you don't come to the answer you thought you might, or
Mhm.
so. But sometimes you end up. But that particular debate, I was even talking to a good friend of mine who owns a supplement store, several of them actually, and he is definitely in the meat camp. Where
Mm.
he is like high meat, lots of animal protein, lots of, and God forbid a grain ever pass your lips, or what. He asked me the question the other day. He said, "Why would anyone want to eat any plants?" I thought it was the most interesting question, and I said, "Well, you own a supplement store. Do you realize that pretty much every one of these supplements come from plants? Like, the flavonoids and the vitamin C and all this stuff. And the only reason if you ate something that was an animal would have any of those substances in it is because that animal ate that plant. So it's like, plants are essential, so
Mhm.
it was interesting. But we had a very spirited debate about back and forth in regards to which of those different dietary strategies is better, and even which is better if you have heart disease. That was that's where, because he's worried about that too. So, uh,
Ah,
and we're on
okay.
exact opposite sides of the fence on that one. So,
All right. To be continued, I think,
yep.
right?
Oh, yeah, yes.
All right. So I kind of hijacked the conversation. What did you want to talk about today, Ben?
Well, I wanted to talk about my topic for my email newsletter this week, and I'll be doing a video on it next week as well, is mold inhibitors. So it's something that's fascinated me. When I have like bread, because I do eat bread, I not frequently, not every day, but I do think a whole grain sourdough bread is not gonna, cause me to go into a insulin shock or like just blood sugar out on the floor. I'm just saying I do eat bread. I don't have a gluten allergy, so I think that for like I don't want to go down that path, but anyway, so like we'd have this bread, and certainly my children eat bread. Everybody's kids, right? Like hot dogs, hamburgers, buns. Like we're all eating these products. And I started to get fascinated with the fact that they never mold. Like they never mold. They're in the bread drawer, sitting out in the elements for days and weeks and sometimes even months, and there's no mold on them. And it's like, what is going on with that? So
Right.
I started to go down the rabbit hole of, what are they putting in that bread or that bun or that hot dog bun? What is going in there that is causing this thing to never mold? And if they're putting something in there, some type of chemical, which they are, should we be concerned about what effect that chemical has on us as human beings? And so that got me down the whole rabbit hole. So they are very much so putting in what are called mold inhibitors. They're not on the ingredient list, right? Because they don't have to put them on there. But and then additionally to that, most of the grain products that people are eating are not organic. It's very hard to find organic flour. It's not the easiest thing in the world for any of your listeners who have tried to do that. They can sympathize with me where it's like, it is kind of hard to find that.
Right.
So you have this chemical laden grain, that's been processed with pesticides and herbicides and all kinds of weird crap. It's been sprayed on it. And then that grain, is, milled and produced into whatever bread product you're eating. But then a bunch of other chemicals are injected into it so that it never molds. And you kind of end up with this Frankenstein bread, and so I've tried to figure out if there's anybody making bread that doesn't have mold inhibitors in it and or uses organic flour or and doesn't put sugar in their bread, so and I found a company that does, so I've been really pleased that I found one spot where I can kind of get that. Yeah, I've only found one. I'm sure there's others that do that, but I have found one that I've been using, and they make spectrum of breaded product you can think of. So
is it good? Is it worth eating? Let me ask you that, taste wise and enjoyment wise.
It's delicious. It's
okay.
Delicious. So and they have some really cool sourdough products as well. Because the fermenting of a lot of people feel that fermented grain products are better for you than non-fermented. So sourdough fits in that category. But they have sourdough products that are made with whole grains, or sprouted grains and all kinds of stuff. So it's been cool. And it's the one battle I've won in my own household, Jack, where I've lost pretty much every dietary battle I've fought with my children and my wife. I've waved the white flag of surrender, but I have done one good thing, where my children eat this type of breaded product versus
really
Costco or at Target or Sendix. They are all eating this in my mind a much more natural bread product. Probably much more like what our grandparents ate. So.
Well, the thing with bread, I have a thing against bread because I really like bread. But the thing is, unlike candy or Pop-Tarts or certain things where they're unabashedly not good for you, you can tell, you can look at it. So many of the breads, they look like natural, grainy, wonderful things, and it turns out they aren't. I mean, they're imposters more than other food categories, as far as I can see. Because I like the way this, I see a great whole grain bread with the oat flakes on top or whatever the hell they are. I mean, that tastes great, and it's got to be good for me, right? But not necessarily, right?
Exactly, and everything's a spectrum, right? So that might be better than Wonder Bread, but when you look at that stuff, whenever I'm trying to evaluate a grain, an intact grain is the best grain to eat in my mind. So before it's been milled or processed. So, but then you have grains that they've been milled and processed, but then they've taken out things, which is like white flour, versus a whole wheat flour or something like that. So I would contend that a lot of the good stuff gets taken out, the fiber and different things. So, but it's that spectrum of looking at that and trying to find, something and the breads that are the ones that have all the good stuff in them and none of the bad chemicals, they are just as delicious or more so, in my opinion, than like a Wonder Bread. They're typically not as like soft.
Hmm.
Some of those other ones
Yeah.
because they like dough conditioners, all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of chemicals going in there, So
Well,
I kind of
that
fact I'm
soft,
I bread with
that's
no chemicals added.
oh, that soft bread. It's weird. I don't like it if it's too soft and mushy.
Mhm.
I just like something. I like some texture to things typically to what I eat. So that's
Sure,
why that bread looks great to me. Oh yes, that looks great. And then oh no, it's probably not. So
totally.
it's yeah, imposters. They tick me off bad. So you're gonna do a video on bread next week?
No category is it getting more confusing than grains because you listen to experts on both sides of the topic on that one. It's like some people think that grains are the worst thing ever made. Like no one should ever consume a grain, and then other people, are kind of trying to convince people that whole grains are something that are good for you. So it's like
Right.
complete opposite things, and you have two different PhDs telling you complete opposite things, and it's like, well, where does the truth lie, or what does the truth lie for, you as an individual,
Yeah.
as those foods affecting people differently. So
And some of it's just as simple to me now as how do I feel afterwards? After
yes,
I eat something, do you feel? I mean, I I don't. I ate last week, Ben. I can't remember what meal it was. I said to Margot, I'm never doing. Oh, and it wasn't even terrible stuff. Yogurt. I had some yogurt after I had. I don't know what I had for lunch, but I should have. I shouldn't have. I should have put it aside because I was working and I just had the bowl right next to me while I was working. So I had um, blueberries and some almonds in it. So I mean, it was a substantial yogurt, and I knew when I was doing it, I was like, I'm gonna regret this. I know I'm gonna regret this. Then I do some more and I take another scoop and scoop. For I knew it was gone. I was like, oh shit. And then sure enough, I had to go to a meeting after that, and I was like, oh, I feel it was just it was almost like Thanksgiving full, felt like, because it was so, and that felt terrible. And it wasn't terrible food, I don't think. It was Greek
yeah,
yogurt, and it's processed, yeah, but still, it's, oh God. So anything you eat too much of, so I try not to ever eat while I'm doing something else. That's another thing I try to do.
there's certainly something to be said for that, and intentional eating, right?
Yeah.
That eating with intention.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
we're also pressed for time. It's so easy to just eat while you're doing something, but then it doesn't even register. Like, I don't
but
know.
I totally agree with you that that's another measure is just how you feel after a meal, you know. And that's one of the things where when I gave up steak, I probably eat steak once every 3 years now because every time I ate it, I would feel like it was digesting in my gullet to like 3 o'clock the following day. Like I just felt this like lump in my like what can't be
Ugh.
good, So but yeah,
So,
but how you feel after you eat something is an indication of whether that food is good for you as well. So
all
if
right.
you
So I have to ask you, what would be the occasion if you eat it once every 3 years? What would ever make you eat a steak now? Is there something you hold out for, or like,
I typically don't like to be even though I have a lot of particular opinions on what I should be eating, not eating, I don't
no?
people that like goes to the dinner party but won't eat the food. They I don't eat that, I don't eat that, and so I was at I was out to eat with a fellow health club owner and his wife, and my wife was with us as well. And they had picked the restaurant, and they picked the most expensive steakhouse in San Antonio. Um, Steakhouse, the waiter, it was like he had this list of like a zillion different kind of steaks you could have, and there was this really expensive one. And my friend, the other health club owner, picked that one, and I felt a lot of pressure to also get that steak. And it's like, okay, this is supposed to be the most amazing steak in the world in San Antonio. I'm gonna just have to have this steak, and that's kind of an example of when you come into a situation. Food is something that can be very enjoyable,
Hmm.
and you don't want to deprive yourself. It's just that I don't need to eat that steak every night, right? I
Right.
can frequently. So that was
That was the last one, huh?
yes, that was about 3 months ago.
And
So
how was it? Was it enjoyable? Was it good?
it's weird. Now that I don't eat that stuff that much, it was certainly fine and it was enjoyable. It was good, but it wasn't as good as I remembered it in my own mind. Because you
Hmm.
kind of these things. Oh, that was so
Yep.
good. and then you like, or like say you eat a hot dog or something, and it's like, oh gosh, I used to remember those being much better as a kid. Like not being nasty.
Yeah,
So,
kind of the memory of. Cool. Well, so that's interesting. So are you going to reveal? Are you going to saving that for something and have a reveal of what the bread company is? You want to hold that up for you? Got to do it for your video and say, watch my video if you want to know.
yeah, mainly because I can't remember the name of the company right now. So
Oh, okay, but we'll look for it.
they have a really weird name. It's an Amish bread company. It's really cool. It's a family-owned shop, but they do a really good job. They ship it right to your house.
Mm,
Vested financial interest in this company. It's just I always like when I find people that are doing the right thing. I always like to pass their information along to my friends and colleagues and family members. It is like called like Heavenly Bread of such and such. I can't. It's like this is really weird. They're obviously doing
sure,
or something. I
sure.
don't know, but they make darn good bread. So that's
Well,
all I get.
those Amish, they do amazing things with no electricity and no nothing. They can figure it out, man. Cool.
Totally. Yeah.
I've got a food question for you. If that's right with you, is it okay? It seems like every time we talk, there's like either a Super Bowl or some holiday, and Sunday is St. Patrick's Day, celebrated big time by the Irish and the non-Irish. You have any Irish blood in you, Ben, or no?
Yes, I do.
Do you? Yeah, me too. But I have two questions for you about St. Patrick's Day. The first one is corned beef and cabbage. How would
Mhm.
you rate that? Is is that a terrible meal? Is how do you rate it like versus a pizza or something? You know what I mean on a scale. It tastes good, so it has to be bad for you somehow. I know, but still.
I don't know. There's a lot of again, you're getting into the argument there. Like some people would tell you that meat is really good for you, or you need to eat lots of saturated fat, lots of protein. But if my own personal opinion on that, that
Yeah,
would be unhealthy spectrum for a multitude of reasons. So yes, I would put that. This is only my own personal opinion.
yeah,
You
sure.
make arguments that that's like the healthiest thing ever, but
It seems to me, and I like salty things, but to me that it always seems salty. Both the corned beef and the cabbage both have that salty
yeah,
residue to me.
I haven't looked at nutritional facts on that particular meal ever, but I would assume that it's very high in sodium. It's probably very high in saturated fat, which I'm still in the camp that believes high amounts of saturated fat is not a great thing for human beings.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, you know,
Cool. Okay. No, that's why I would, because sometimes you surprise me, say, "Oh, that's not too bad," or whatever. But I knew you'd know something. And then the other thing, Ben, about St. Patrick's Day, it's on a Sunday, and traditionally, people in the U.S. party a lot harder on St. Patrick's Day than they do even in Ireland.
mhm.
So people are going to start drinking at parades on Sunday morning and continues through the day because of St. Patrick's Day. What do you how can you is there any words of wisdom or advice to people so Monday is right around the corner? What do you have to do after you went to a parade and you were drinking from 10 until 3? What can they do after that to make themselves productive on
I think
Monday?
take Monday off. I think that's probably the best.
Ben, that might be your best answer ever.
I just have to take a day. Let's take a sick day.
Oh man. Okay. Oh, interesting. Yeah. All right. No amount of water. Like you don't gonna give a liter of water for every beer you drink or something like that. Probably
Nope.
not.
A little
Yeah.
extra, some
Yeah.
water. Maybe the next day, sweat it out in the sauna. Like I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, God bless the sauna. I did the sauna again this morning. It was great. So
Yeah, those have been very well received at the health club. So yeah,
yeah.
like a
Okay.
nice,
Yeah. What's that? You kind of went out on me there.
nothing like a nice Swedish sauna.
Yes.
Yep.
And is the idea behind that just sweating stuff out of you, getting anything out of toxic out of you, or what? Why did you install saunas, Ben? Do you have a minute to say? I don't want to take up too much of your time, but
That's a whole other topic. But I'm a
okay.
that heat has a lot of beneficial effects for the human body. So beyond just sweat, toxins. So
Okay.
there's there's a whole host of research on that, and a lot of it is incredibly convincing, especially in the areas of heart disease. So
Excellent. Okay. Well, we should do a show on that. I'm very interested in it.
yeah, let's do that. I'll
Okay.
come up with material on that. We'll do it.
Okay, cool. All right. Your daughter, was it a successful tourney trip? You went to a tournament or something with your daughter, correct?
Yep, they made nationals. So she was in the state tournament a little bit ago, and then going to nationals for basketball, 7th grade.
Oh,
Yeah, so
fantastic.
weekend. So yeah,
Congratulations. That's great.
next weekend it is. Yeah, totally. Yep,
Yeah, very cool. All right, cool. Well, that's great. Tell her to stay away from the corned beef and cabbage the night before the game. I don't think that'll be a problem. But very cool. Well, it's good to see you, Ben. We've missed you. We've missed you and your evil smile.
Back. All right, Jack.
All right, cool. Have a great weekend. Thanks.
Again.
Yes. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.